Things are gonna get crazy.
Most everyone's mad here.
Good afternoon, animation fans, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everyone? I hope you had a wonderful week. I know that I had a pretty relaxing weekend, had a fun time with my family, going out in Ottawa, just like a little weekend getaway. It was very nice. It was definitely a lot of fun. And plus, I would like to go and add that I feel much, much better compared to last week. If you guys recall, I had tonsillitis, but thankfully I did take all my medication, and so far, for the most part, it is certainly gone. And now the only other step for it would be to see a doctor and talk about what I can do to fix this issue in the long run, because that's actually been an ongoing problem with me in terms of body problems that I would have over the years. But anyways, disregard all of that. This week, holy crap, do we have an explosive episode for you today. Believe me when I say that it is going to get nuts, because there's going to be a bit of a common theme in which we will be talking about companies in which they get heavily called out on social media. Like almost one after another, there's going to be so many of these crazy stories in which a variety of different companies will be exposed to being not only a bunch of dickheads, but also being practically dumb. So yeah, this is going to be one of those that will really emphasize the crazy and the cartoon. And then of course you got me, so you already got the AniMat aspect involved. So we are going to be here for quite an exciting time. Also, there is one more thing I would like to say, just a little bit of a heads up that the weather has not been great recently. In fact, right now it is a very, very cloudy day with some showers going on, so don't be surprised if there are some aspects where the podcast might be buffering on Twitch. That could happen, but I'm just giving you all a little bit of a heads up so that you could prepare for the worst case scenario. But hopefully it won't be as problematic, so we could still go and have a good time. So again, this is just to give you a warning so that you can have a heads up, so you won't have any, you won't have any upsetting surprises. But anyways, now that we are good with that, let's go into the chat wall over here, and I would like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Oh, we even got a subscription from Gorillas Fan 1992. Thank you so much. All right, so yep, it looks like we're all prepared. We're all set. That is beautiful. And with that said, let's go ahead and get things started. And with our first story, we might as well go and start off with the first of the companies getting called out and the massive craziness that the news ended up causing all around the internet. But first, I would like to go and mention a few honorable mentions, considering that there's been so many madness that it's hard to pinpoint which one that I would go and talk about, because trust me, if I would have to go and cover all of them, we would be here forever. So some honorable mentions. There's one massive good news of the fact that conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is finally getting the justice that he deserves to get striked upon, where now he owes nearly $1 billion towards the Sandy Hook victim. So finally his reign of terror is going to be over pretty soon, and he'll forever remain poor. Then there is also some sadder news, which a Twitch user by the name of Amaranth, I think that's her name, in which she has revealed that her life is pretty much caged up by her abusive husband, in which she showed a whole bunch of receipts and proof that her husband is pretty much controlling her life, including what she would do online, like on Twitch and on OnlyFans and all that kind of stuff. So I really do wish her the best, that one day she will have her freedom, and that, again, just like with what happened to Alex Jones, that husband will get struck down by justice. And then finally, there was also the incident that happened at TwitchCon, in which there was one woman, she was partying around in the foam pool, and then suddenly she jumped on it, and it was a lot more shallow than she thought, which resulted in her completely breaking her back and possibly permanently damaging her spine. But what I'm going to be looking at, it's not going to be any of those. Again, those are just honorable mentions. What I will be looking at, and might as well go and start things off with probably the craziest animation news of the week, is related with what's been happening with Cartoon Network. Whoops, nope, not that one. There we go. Yes, with Cartoon Network, specifically with the major changes that have been happening with Warner Brothers Television. Because once again, yes, by the way, this is indeed another news related to Warner Brothers Discovery. And of course, they are still in their ongoing pursuit of trying to go and save up some cash so that they could go and pay up just a little bit of their debt. And one of the big changes that they have done is regarding Warner Brothers Television Group. And in there, well, the big bad news of all this is the fact that sadly they have to go and fire 82 staffers that have been working in the television group, rather it be people working in the live action divisions, the CW, or even in the animation division. There have sadly been some jobs that have been lost, on top of 43 additional vacant jobs that they decided to go and cut off, which in total means that Warner Brothers Discovery has taken away 125 jobs in Warner Brothers Television Group. But the most controversial of them all is the fact that they also decided to go and shut down Stage 13, which is actually a training program for people to go and be one step closer to go and work in Hollywood, either as a director or as a writer. And this has been heavily noted for minority groups to go and actually get their first steps in there. So people of color have really used Stage 13. There was women who used Stage 13. There were LGBTQ plus people, trans people, and so many other groups that are not in the straight white cis male category that have heavily benefited from Stage 13 to go and have prominent careers. And from there, Warner Brothers Discovery decided to go and just shut that program down. Which, as a result, this ended up causing a lot of backlash, not just from the public, but also especially from the Directors Guild of America. Like, they were upset the most, and they were ready to go and take action against Warner Brothers Discovery for what they have done. To which, in response, it was one of the very rare moments where Warner Brothers Discovery decided to go and walk back from the shutdown. And they have announced that instead of shutting it down, what they are going to do is that they're going to go and take Stage 13, take that training program, and just move it, where instead of being associated with Warner Brothers Television Group, they will now be a part of their diversity, equity, and inclusion unit. And this is not something that they're going to do immediately. They're waiting until this year can be capped off, so that when the next year comes, when they're going to start to apply for more new Stage 13 people to come in and apply for the training program, that's when that whole thing is going to be moving divisions, again going from television to the DEI division at Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, it is definitely a massive relief, but still the Directors Guild of America still have a tiny bit of trust issues, so they are going to keep a careful eye on Warner Brothers to make sure that they are still good in their word, that they are still applying a good workflow, and that they could still, that training program is still as solid as it was with Stage 13. Oh, but I know those are just side news, though. That's nothing really about the main subject that we are talking about today. Because specifically what I want to discuss is in regards to the changes that they have done in the animation division of Warner Brothers Television Group, which they have decided to make some significant updates. And for that, I'm going to be reading from my source here on Variety about what they have done. So I'm going to take this paragraph here, or these paragraphs, and it states, in animation, Sam Register will continue to oversee Warner Brothers Animation, Cartoon Network Studios, and Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe. Those three labels will continue to exist, but development and main production teams for Warner Brothers Animation and Cartoon Network Studios will now merge, while Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe will maintain a separate team. The three shingles have already shared the same current programming, casting, legal business affairs, and artist relations team. Under the new setup, a kids and family series development team will be led by Audrey Deal, adult animation development will be led by Peter Giraldi, and animation long-form series development will be led by Sammy Perlmutter, with Bobby Page leading main production. Despite the changes, output will remain the same as Cartoon Network Studios continues to produce original animation fare for internal outlets, including Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, and HBO Max. And with HBO Max moving away from adult animation, there will be a renewed push for producing for third-party networks and outside platforms as well. Warner Brothers Animation focuses on more pre-existing characters and IPs. So the big thing that Warner Brothers Discovery has done in terms of the television animation division is that they decided to go and merge the production teams of Cartoon Network Studios and Warner Brothers Animation. However, because of that, a lot of people seem to have interpreted that differently, especially when it came to Cartoon Brew. Oh, they had a little bit of a twist to that little story, because they have interpreted that as if it were the end of Cartoon Network Studios, that somehow, because there was a merger between those two teams, they thought that, oh, it's a massive merger with Warner Brothers Animation and Cartoon Network Studios, that somehow the entity of WBA will completely consume Cartoon Network Studios and thus the end of that studio. And that's why they spread out the message by saying that, oh, Cartoon Network Studios is dead. Cartoon Network Studios has shut down, which caused mass hysteria across social media. And there might have been some YouTube videos that resulted in that announcement, where some people were saying, rest in peace, Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network is dead. Cartoon Network will never be the same. And you probably even remember Veilsky Bum even put out a video saying, rest in peace, Cartoon Network, using that Cartoon Brew article as a source. But then suddenly, enter one animator who is working at Cartoon Network Studios, calling out Cartoon Brew, saying that it was a flat-out lie, that it was nothing more but a conspiracy, a rumor that is just made up by Cartoon Brew. And they were having arguments back and forth, but it was clear that the animator had a massive leverage, and not to mention showing evidence that it's not even true. And yet you got Cartoon Brew that's just on the side, desperately trying to say that they're the ones who are right, and like trying to deny that they were wrong and they're the ones telling the truth or anything like that. Like, it was quite a sight to behold that there was this like entire like flame war going on between those two. But it was evidently clear that the grand majority of the animation community believed in the animator, and thus it has been confirmed that Cartoon Network Studios is not dead. And even the official Twitter account of Cartoon Network, or the social media account in general of Cartoon Network, had to step in and confirm that they are not dead. Basically, flat out calling out Cartoon Brew, saying that they have flat out lied. And that's pretty much where we are today. Now, I will say the worst case scenario that did happen is that among those 82 people that did lose their jobs from the change-ups that WBD has done to their television group, there is a chance that some of them may have been animators who have worked at Cartoon Network Studios. And if that is the case, I'm so sorry for those people who have lost their jobs, and I do hope that they will find something new to go and work at. So yeah, there may have been a chance that did happen, but long story short, no, Cartoon Network did not die. They did not lose, they did not shut down whatsoever. All it is nothing more but a merger between the production teams. So really, it was just Cartoon Brew pulling a massive... So that really was the big situation. And honestly, it was just crazy to see this entire scenario unfurl, especially when we just passed Cartoon Network's 30th anniversary. Like at the beginning of the month, similar to me, they actually had their big 30th anniversary celebration that Cartoon Network has officially turned 30, that they were for the first time on the air 30 years ago, that they were put on. And a lot of people thought that this would mean that, oh, now that like there's this change up that was happening, they've unfortunately shut down. And it's kind of crazy to see how like this kind of information would spread so quickly, and in a way that seemed very panicky across the entire internet, and the only one source is from that Cartoon Brew article. Like, thank God there was the one animator, his name was David, I forgot his full name, but he stepped in and pretty much made that massive confirmation that it was nothing more but misinformation. And just hilarious to see how Cartoon Brew was just really taken down after that announcement, and really became like the clown of the day during that entire moment. Even I had to go and intervene and call them out by saying, like, come on, Cartoon Brew, seriously, you gotta take the L on this. Nobody is listening to you. Nobody believes you. Like, everybody is pretty much turning on you at this point. And the funny thing is that it really did reignite the hate on Cartoon Brew, to where people are now reminded once again about some of the bad things that they have done, and some of the similar incidents in which they did share a bunch of misinformation, or that they would twist some of their own opinions, especially coming from the co-founder Amit Admiti, taking their opinions and just try to dish it out as just facts, which not necessarily a good look when it comes to being a professional journalist, and especially with something like Cartoon Brew, in which it takes pride in itself, saying that it is the #1 website in order to get animation related news. So from there, they really did embarrass themselves, and really, like, the backlash on them just grew significantly stronger. I don't know if I would say it is the strongest, because I think there have been other incidents in which Cartoon Brew really did embarrass themselves, or they really attacked other animators just for the sake of, like, trying to say that they are right. Like, I don't know if this, like, if what we have witnessed with the whole Cartoon Network incident is the worst, but it is definitely up there. Like, it was so bad to the point where, like, the official social media account of what they were talking about had to step in and say, no, we're not dead. That's absolutely bullcrap. So it's honestly crazy to see how they have embarrassed themselves so badly. Like, even Veilsky Bum, who did produce that video, and by the way, I just want to point out, nothing against the guy, but it was just funny to see, like, with the kind of videos in which he has often been criticized to be very clickbaity, and especially with that one with Rest in Peace Cartoon Network, like the like after that controversy erupted and Cartoon Brew got some massive backlash, the only change that he has done was just add into the title a question mark and that's it. Like, just put in like a little question mark. I haven't fully checked if he added something in the description or in the comments or something, but all he did, like, with that video that he made of Rest in Peace Cartoon Network, was add a little question mark, and somehow that would solve all those problems. But yeah, honestly, this is a massive example as to why, for me personally, it's a reminder as to why I never use Cartoon Brew as a valid source, because yeah, they may seem like highly professional and that they're very close to the people working in the animation industry, but they are prone to spread misinformation, and again, that they would use a lot of the opinions of Midi and try to deliver them as facts. They're not really the most trustworthy news website out there. In fact, for me, as I stated before, I would use other sources in order to go and talk about animation related news. As you've probably seen, when I would go and talk about animation, of course, I would go with some of the main entertainment news, such as Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, or if you want animation related news, a really good source for it is Animation Magazine. That's a source that I frequently use here in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and I highly recommend that you go and check them out. That is animationmagazine.net. And there have been some others as well, including Rotoscopers is also a pretty good, reliable website. But for me, if I want animation specific news, my go-to site would be it would be Animation Magazine. So just letting you know on that. But yeah, with how Cartoon Brew has been, it's just hilarious to see the backlash that they have gotten. And this was something that, like, I just remembered today that was also absolutely hilarious. And that is the fact that I remember earlier this year, they did reveal that they want to go and sell the website, that people like Midi wants to take Cartoon Brew and they want to go and sell it off to another company, probably for like millions of dollars, if I do recall. But they are trying to go and plan that out. However, after what recently happened, yeah, that money is going away quickly, or at least the value of Cartoon Brew, I'm sure it has significantly decreased. Like right now, like they saw the value just going down and down and down and down because right now the trust value of Cartoon Brew, that has significantly plummeted. Like now, a good chunk of the animation community is not going to trust Cartoon Brew in terms of getting their news. Like when they see where the source of the news will come from, they will, they're going to second guess if it does come from Cartoon Brew. So that's honestly the big thing that like I was just reminded of. It's the fact that, yeah, Cartoon Brew right now is on sale and they're hoping to get like a new buyer and a new owner for that website. But for now, the reputation seems to be a bit in shambles right now, especially under the reign of Midi. It's just so crumpled up and broken down, especially after the Cartoon Network incident, that it's going to be hard to find like a new buyer, or if there is someone who would want to go and buy Cartoon Brew, yeah, they're gonna have to ask for a massive discount, because again, a big part of what they have to do if they do buy Cartoon Brew is to go and try to repair its image, to try to go and fix up the PR so that people can trust Cartoon Brew to be a reliable news source specifically for the animation industry. But for now, from what we are seeing with Cartoon Network, it looks like for the most part, the studio seems to be fine. However, I do not blame people if they do feel a bit worried with the current condition of Cartoon Network, especially under David Zaslav with the crazy changes that he's making at Warner Brothers Discovery and the amount of reductions that he's trying to do across his company just for the sake of trying to save some money in order to pay the massive debt that Warner Brothers has been on for decades. Like, I understand that fear. I understand the tenseness of what's going on. on. And yes, maybe there might be some changes that could occur now that the production teams of WBA and Cartoon Network Studios have now come together, that they are under one roof per se. Now, maybe there might be some changes, but in my opinion, at least from my perspective of it, I don't think the changes are going to be that significant, at least in terms of the workflow with what's going to be happening at Cartoon Network Studios. I don't think it's going to be something that would completely shake things up to the point where people are going to say Cartoon Network has never been the same. I mean, yeah, Cartoon Network has really changed over the years, and they have definitely not been the same as they were back in the 1990s, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a significant change where we are watching a brand new era of Cartoon Network to the point where they have become a brand new studio, that they're practically unrecognizable. I don't think that really is the case. Again, maybe some changes will occur with the production teams merging, but I don't think that necessarily means that we are going to see a brand new Cartoon Network Studios. For the most part, I think they're probably going to be the same. I don't know. I could be wrong. And yes, people who have worked or are working at Cartoon Network Studios, they probably have better insights than me regarding this situation. But I'm just speaking from an outsider's perspective, from an animation fan's perspective in all this. But honestly, overall, it's just crazy to see how this entire situation has just unfurled, especially when it came to Cartoon Network Studios, when people really thought that Cartoon Network has died straight after their 30th birthday, when in reality it's nothing more but just a minor change. So really, the big lesson from all this is just don't use Cartoon Brew as a source for animation news. There are plenty of other websites that you can do so. And also, please keep in mind, when you actually want to go and look for specific animation news, really actually try to find them, try to find the sources. Don't rely on social media or on YouTube to go and deliver you the news on a silver platter. Even with this podcast, don't use AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast as your source for animation news. It's much more important that you go and look for the news yourself, to go and find the sources and to make sure that they are reliable. So just a big heads up. This is why on my YouTube channel, I decided to do that update where now I include the sources of the stories that I would go and talk about. So really important there. And also, again, don't read Cartoon Brew, because from what we have seen, yeah, they're just spreading lies just for the sake of sensationalism. All right, so with that said, though, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you think about this entire Cartoon Network mess? How did you feel? What were your reactions throughout this entire controversy? Because I know you guys are also animation fans, so I would love to know what you think on this. Okay, let's see what we got here. It feels great seeing Cartoon Brew being called out, and hope every single person in the industry will forever stop reading Cartoon Brew for good. Besides, we have Animation Magazine, the best kind of magazine. Hopefully Cartoon Network Studios will be okay afterwards, and hopefully those animators and artists that did get laid off will find another job soon. Love you guys. All right, very nice there. Cartoon Brew is basically the InfoWars of entertainment news minus the far right politics. I never believed in their Cartoon Network closing myth. I mean, it's an example of how fear-mongering can spread far and wide. Yeah, exactly, because this really feels scummy of Cartoon Brew, of what they were trying to do, because basically this really is just sensationalism for the sake of gathering clicks, that they would go and try to spread this information, people would be freaking out, people would be in a panic, and from there, they would hope that they would go and keep on sharing the article to show that Cartoon Network is closing down. So yeah, it really was a massive scumbag move that they have actually pulled off there. I mean, I don't know if I would go as far and say that they're on par with InfoWars, but it really did feel like, with what we have seen with Cartoon Network, it does feel like something that Alex Jones would pull off just for the sake of trying to spread fear and panic amongst his people. Let's see. It's safe to say that nothing good came out of the merger, but when Zaslav shut down Stage 13, I said out loud, oh, Zaslav is racist. Okay, so I'm really glad that they went back on it. As for the Cartoon Network business, I more so blame Cartoon Brew for creating this rumor than WBD. I'm gonna feel a little weird referencing a Disney show for this, but I love how Cartoon Brew did this. Even Cartoon Network had to say, stop spreading those rumors around, stop spreading the lies. Yeah, that's definitely true. That is the one thing that we can give WBD and David Zaslav a pass. They weren't the ones that actually caused this panic. Like, it was actually another source that actually spreaded the misinformation. So, like, that was the one time that, like, it's not WBD's fault this time. Let's see now. I'm honestly hoping that Cartoon Network will be fine in all this. I definitely wish the people who were laid off the best of luck. As for Cartoon Brew, they have basically become the animation equivalent of Fox News, a website that just spews out fake news and over-exaggerated things. And honestly, I think at the point of the animation community, it would be better off without Cartoon Brew. Okay, so honestly, as I said before, the comparison with InfoWars is a little too extreme. The comparison with Fox News, however, might not be far off, though. I think that might actually be accurate because, like, okay, like, you could take off the politics aspect because, yeah, Cartoon Brew is not necessarily right-wing. So, that comparison, it's not because of that, but it's the way that they would go and handle news, the way that they try to sprinkle in their opinion onto it and try to force that out as facts, kind of like what we have seen, the kind of tactics that Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson would do upon their viewers. It's the same thing that we have seen with Cartoon Brew, with people such as Amit and Mitty trying to sprinkle in their opinion and try to pass that off as news. I know some people might say that I'm doing the same thing here in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, but for me, I'm just saying that I'm completely transparent with what I am doing. I'm spreading the news, but also I'm expressing my opinion. And yeah, I am aware that what I'm saying here is just my opinion and not necessarily everyone is going to go and agree with me on it. You know, honestly, I'm fully open. Like, what you see is what you get. And I'm telling you right now, what you're getting here is some of the news, but also at the same time, some of my opinions as well. So at least we know it. At least, like, you know what you're going into, but people trust Cartoon Brew to get their news. And if they're passing off their opinions as news, then that's a really scummy journalistic move right there. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? Just want to double check. Oh crap, we got another ban evader. Oh, I know who it is. Like, I don't know what it is, but honestly, we got, like, lately I've been getting this one troll who's just been really desperate to try to get my attention and, like, giving me emails and spamming comments on, like, Twitter and stuff like that. It's just I mean, like, the person was just trying way too hard with making, like, death threats and try to bully me and stuff like that, but it's just like, whatever, you know. It's just like, you know, it's kind of like a mosquito. It's like, you just want to go away, please. Okay, but anyways, what else do we have here? At first I thought Cartoon Network Studios is going away, but thank God it's still alive. Disappointed to people at Cartoon Brew and even Collider for showing false information. I usually read articles on Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and Animation Magazine. I'm glad the director at Cartoon Network Studios called out and cleared the situation. Cartoon Network made a fun post on Twitter, including that gumball meme. P.S. Show that post on Twitter. Oh, hold on. I would have to go and try to find that, actually. Let's see. Cartoon Network Twitter. Yeah, I just want to go and double check where would be that post, because it is kind of funny to see how they have how they did try to call out the entire situation. Where is it? But oh yes, oh my god, this is it. Oh, that is funny. Oh my god, yo, you gotta see this. Hold on a sec. Here, let me go and show you all. It's right here. Like, yeah, okay, now I get what you mean. Yeah, when you find out about your death via Twitter. Oh no, they're dead. So, yeah. Oh, okay, that is funny. That I gotta give some credit to Cartoon Network. At least, hey, it's nice to see that they're having fun with it, you know? That is very nice. Okay, I'm gonna read one more comment before we move on to our next story, because we got plenty more that we gotta get into. Okay, let's see here. Oh boy, Warner Brothers doing yet another stupid decision with an extra bit of idiocy from Cartoon Brew on the side. At least this time we could thank DGA for slapping Warner Brothers on the wrist for shutting down Stage 13 and causing them to reverse damage. But also Cartoon Brew has caused nothing but trouble with how they just clickbaited everyone with Cartoon Network's fate. Also, I just wanted to bring up that Valley did delete his video about Cartoon Network's death. Okay, so he did do that. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'll take back whatever comments of what Valsky Bum did, Valsky Bum did. So, or is it Valsky Bum? Or I'm not 100% sure how to say his name. I do apologize, but no, good on him for actually doing the right move there. And yeah, I will say also, it is a very rare instance that we do see Warner Brothers Discovery actually reversing on something that they have done. That is like a very rare thing that we have seen amongst the entire calamity, especially which, by the way, just want to go and mention this, considering that this news actually broke out this morning, considering that Ezra Miller is now in court and he's trying to plead not guilty for some of the crimes that he has did. But if he fails, apparently it's been reported that he'll face up to 26 years in prison. So if things don't go well with Miller in court, then that could be another thing we might see Warner Brothers Discovery might have to backtrack on, and might actually have to go and have to do a tax write-off on The Flash. I mean, it's hard to go and try to promote try to go and promote the Flash movie when the star of it is in prison. I'm just saying. Okay, folks, now moving on to our next story, we're going to go and have a little break from the whole craziness of calling out different companies. I know, like, so far I just called out one, but this is another major news that happened last week that I do have to talk about, because this is actually a very, very significant celebrity death that actually occurred. In fact, there have been several death-related news that did actually appear. Like, sadly, we have lost Robbie Coltrane, whom you probably remember him best as Hagrid from the Harry Potter movies, who brought joy to millions of Harry Potter fans back in a more innocent time when it was acceptable to enjoy Harry Potter without worrying about the fate of trans people. But then there is also an update in regards to the passing of Kazuki Takahashi, the creator of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, in which it was revealed that he actually died when trying to save some people from drowning, which really goes to show that when it comes to the phrase, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, it's very rare that you actually see examples of the former. And Kazuki Takahashi, he really is a prominent example of the former, and he truly is he was the real life king of games, and I salute that man. I have nothing but respect for him. However, this death, on the other hand, is the most significant and easily one of the biggest celebrity deaths of the year, in which we have lost a true Queen of England. And I don't mean Elizabeth II, I mean specifically Angela Lansbury. Yes, it has unfortunately been revealed that Angela Lansbury has passed away at the age of 96. And it was actually noted that it was 5 days just before that she would actually turn 97, considering that her birthday was October 16th. So she was actually very, very close to turning 97 years old. But unfortunately, she did not make it to that number. And for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with Angela Lansbury, she really is an acting goddess. Like literally, she has a career that spans 75 years, like 3/4 of an entire century, and like so many prominent works that have been highly admirable. And even like this article on Variety does describe a little bit of what she has done. Of course, the most popular thing that she has done is being the star of Murder, She Wrote, in which she holds the record with that one role. She ended up getting a grand total of 12 acting nominations just for playing on Murder, She Wrote alone. But her career would not just be about Murder, She Wrote. Ever since the 1940s, when she started acting in the 1994 movie Gaslight, she would then go and appear in plenty of other feature films, in which she actually got an Oscar nomination for The Picture of Dorian Gray. Then there was also her roles with MGM, like Till the Clouds Roll By, State of the Union, and The Three Musketeers. And then there's also her career on stage, on Broadway. She really was a dominant force when she was on stage. Like ever since she started playing in Hotel Paradiso, she would then go on to appear in other roles. Like she got the title part in Mame, and then she would be recognized by the Tonys for some of her acting roles on stage, including Dear World, The Mad Woman of Shallot. She was in Gypsy, and of course, probably her most well-known stage role would have to be Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. And of course, she has numerous of different acting roles, both in movies and in television. But probably, other than Murder, She Wrote, what she is probably the most well known for is actually her Disney roles, in which she provided plenty of unforgettable roles with the wonderful world of Disney. One example being the lead character in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, where she kind of played a bit of her own version of Mary Poppins and even fought off against Nazis. But probably the most iconic of them all in terms of her performances that I'm sure everybody knows, everyone remembers, is playing Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. And in terms of her voiceover roles, that does not end there. She has actually done several different voice acting works. I'm using Wikipedia, by the way, with her acting credits, because there's like so much. Yeah, and even in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, by the way, just want to mention that she played Miss Elglatine Price. It's honestly been a long time since I've seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks, so that's why I struggled a bit with the name. But in terms of her voiceover roles, there was her first one that she did for something animation related, which is actually the Rankin Bass holiday special, The First Christmas, in which she played Sister Teresa. And then following afterwards, of course, she did Mrs. Potts in several different projects, like not just in the first Beauty and the Beast movie, but she also played Potts in The Enchanted Christmas, Snowden at the House of Mouse, and even in Kingdom Hearts 2, she actually played Mrs. Potts. At the same time, she was also known as the voice of Mommy Fortuna in The Last Unicorn. She was where was he? Yeah, she was the witch in Justin and the Knights of Valor, and she was Mayor McGurkle in the 2018 Illumination adaptation of The Grinch. And oops, I almost forgot one more role, actually. Of course, how she was Empress Maria in Don Bluth's Anastasia, of course. So there were plenty of unforgettable roles that Angela Lansbury has done over the years. And I just got to say that when I heard that Angela Lansbury died, it really was a massive shock. It was one of those things that you shouldn't be surprised considering how old she is, but honestly, I was. Like, you really thought that Angela Lansbury would be one of those people that would just live on forever, just keep on acting, just doing what she would do. You know, still performing all these different characters. She would still be Mrs. Potts after all these years. She would still be singing Beauty and the Beast. Like, you'd think she would still continue with her acting career. And I mean, there are still some projects that she has yet to fully appear as well. I mean, she would still be acting in some major productions. Like not too long ago, she appeared in Mary Poppins Returns, where she played the balloon lady. But apparently there's also one more role that she's going to appear, and that is actually she is going to play as herself in the upcoming Knives Out trilogy, Glass Onion, where she will go and appear at the same time with Stephen Sondheim. I don't know if there's any TV roles that she'll appear. No, okay. So the Glass Onion is actually her final role that she is going to posthumously play, or that the final thing that she will ever go and appear in. And with Angela Lansbury, like, considering that she would play all these different roles over the years, she's one of those actresses that no matter who you are, no matter what you've seen or how invested you are in either the stage or watching things on television or movies, she has always done at least one performance that you would really remember her a lot. And I think it's safe to say for many people that would have to be Mrs. Potts, where with her performance, it really is a prominent example of who Angela Lansbury is in terms of the roles that she is often most well known for, and that is the sweet old British lady. She is like the kind-hearted British woman with plenty of years of experience within her, and is happy to help whoever she can. She's happy to go and try to aid people whenever they're in distress or whatever, or take care of the little ones whenever she can, especially in Beauty and the Beast. That's a very prominent example of that, where you would see Mrs. Potts just taking care of Chip and taking care of all the other children cups, and that and even helping out with Belle, and not to mention, of course, singing that unforgettable song of Beauty and the Beast with her version. Like, I know over the years there have been like so many different renditions of that song, rather it be like the one with Celine Dion, or recently with I believe it was John Legend and Ariana Grande for that remake. But the Angela Lansbury one, there's something like very endearing. There's something like there's something very touching and more personal about it, where it does, like, it's nothing too extravagant. It's nothing like very poppy that's trying to be so grand and stuff like that. Like, it really has that tone, like it's coming from a soothing grandmother. Like, hearing her rendition of Beauty and the Beast, that it really is like singing a lullaby that you're there, that she is singing like I like, it really feels like she's singing it to one of her grandchildren, that she's singing it to someone that's very close to her, or like someone that she's known for a long time, and that she wants to do like a special little serenade for them. It's that personal touch that really made that song feel so unforgettable and really magical. It really is because of Angela Lansbury's voice. It's because of her rendition that she would do. And even like after all those years, like, it wasn't just in the movie, but like even recently in the past few years, she would go and sing Beauty and the Beast and would still have that same tone that she did back then, like where you could fully hear that it's Mrs. Potts. Like it's not it's not like an older rendition where you can actually really hear her age. It's actually kind of crazy how like she still sounded the same, like even in her 90s, that she still sounded exactly like Mrs. Potts, like straight out of the 1991 film. And also, that's why, honestly, another role that I do have to state that there's one that I personally really enjoyed from Angela Lansbury. It's honestly the balloon lady in Mary Poppins Returns. I know there's been a lot of mixed reactions in terms of that movie, but personally, I actually really enjoyed it. And if that film actually does count in the Disney live action remakes, honestly, I do consider that as one of the best, almost on par with the Jungle Book. And in terms of Angela Lansbury's role, I just gotta say, like when you hear her sing Nowhere to Go But Up, or at least her verse of the song, honestly, it's amazing how she still sounds the same, like after all those years. I am honestly surprised that there is no one out there that actually, like, honestly, I had this great animation idea that I would love to see an animator actually try to do, is actually take that one part from Nowhere to Go But Up, but have it be just like the Angela Lansbury part and animate Mrs. Potts singing it. I think that would be a genius idea, and I think it would honestly really work out, because like it's the same thing. Like you listen to her part and it's just like, yeah, that's undeniably Mrs. Potts that's singing it. Oh yeah, and also I just want to state that, like, this is something that I do have to confess, but Mary Poppins Returns is actually the last movie that I unironically cried at. Like at the end of the film, it was just like such a beautiful, happy ending with Nowhere to Go But Up that I really did shed a tear. It was just such a beautiful moment, and I really enjoyed it, and especially how it did feel like a very touching tribute to Mary Poppins. Like it often gets me in the feels, admittedly. And yes, Angela Lansbury's position really did help play that part. And also there is another thing that I do want to talk about in terms of Angela Lansbury. I remember talking with a group of friends in regards to this, and that is regarding the fact that it's funny how both Angela Lansbury and Julie Andrews kind of went on a very similar path, where in a way there's like this friendly rivalry between Angela Lansbury and and Julie Andrews, where there have been a history where they both tried to go and audition for similar roles. Like even Angela Lansbury tried to go and audition to play as Mary Poppins, but it ultimately went to Julie Andrews. And there have been some moments where Julie Andrews tried to audition for some stuff, but Angela Lansbury ultimately got the role. And it's funny too, because like and in a way, I guess you could say they both have their own Mary Poppins, where yeah, Julie Andrews is Mary Poppins, but then you got Angela Lansbury, where she did end up becoming her own Mary Poppins, but as Mrs. Price, or as Miss Price in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, where like you kind of have that, where it's funny to see like the comparisons between the two, and even the type of role, especially with the type of roles that they would go and play, that they both feel similar, even in the later years, like as the sweet old British lady, where yeah, like Julie Andrews would get those often, like in the Princess Diaries, but then you would have Angela Lansbury doing the exact same thing. Yeah, and also it's worth mentioning that I remember one of my friends, Tyler, actually did bring this up, that when it comes to Angela Lansbury, like as a person, she's actually known to be like exactly that. Like even in real life, she is a sweet old lady, but she's also known to not be afraid to express her opinions. She's not afraid to go and speak out her mind, to speak out her thoughts. She's never afraid to do so, and that is actually very prominent with the Beauty and the Beast remake. She is actually debatably the most vocal amongst all the original cast of the 1991 Beauty and the Beast movie, where she looks at this and goes, this thing is garbage. I don't see the point in all this. Like, even I remember there was an interview that she did, and she pretty much said, "It's like, I don't know why we need a remake. What is this garbage? What is this?" So yeah, she very much is an honest lady, and she doesn't really have that much of a filter. But then again, like, in her later years, she has already been a very well-established actress, and at that point, she's not afraid to go and speak her mind, even when it comes to politics. Like, she has expressed that she is unapologetically a socialist. So yeah, honestly, it's a funny fact about it is a funny fact about Angela Lansbury. And when you see those moments, like, yeah, you wouldn't expect that from her, but it's also very hilarious. Oh, and it does remind me, there's also another role that I do want to talk about in relation to Angela Lansbury, and one that I highly recommend that you go and check out is actually her role as Mrs. Lovitz in the Sweetie Todd original production. Like, her position, like her role in that, it is so unlike the other roles that you have seen from Angela Lansbury. It's very much unlike the type of character that she would play, but she is glorious in there. Where you think about characters like Mrs. Potts, who's more calm. She's not, very nice, but often being stern, like has to fill that mother role when she has to. But then you see her as Mrs. Lovitz. Like, it is just hilarious how loud, bombastic, and sometimes gross how she would be, but she nails it so well. Like, she would just go around, "The worst pies in London, just like that, this gross thing." It's just fantastic. I wish I could show you some of it, but unfortunately there would be some copyright things that I don't necessarily want to deal with right now. So honestly, that's another role that I gotta say really is worth checking out. So honestly, for me personally, the standout performances from Angela Lansbury would have to be from Beauty and the Beast, of course, Mary Poppins Returns, and that adaptation of Sweetie Todd. Oh, but of course, I do have to go and quickly mention about her role in Anastasia, because that one as well, it's a little bit different where, yeah, she is like, the old lady that you would normally expect from the roles that she would play, except with this one, like, it is a little bit different because she has to be a lot more strict and a lot more, like, serious with her part, because with the role that she had to play, she had to pretty much feel like she gave up on life. I mean, she went through a massacre all those years ago, like, all her family is dead, and she's just tired of all those people, like, coming up to her saying that she's Anastasia. It's like, "Hello, grandmother, I'm Anastasia." "No, you're not, piss off." And then suddenly you hear the joy when she finally did found the real Anastasia, like when Anya actually did come in front of her. And that's another standout performance that she actually did very, very well. So honestly, it is a very tremendous loss that we have seen from Angela Lansbury. I'm going to miss her so much. And it really is sad to hear that, like, a beloved icon and a beloved grandmother, at least spiritually for many, that, like, we have lost Mrs. Potts. Like, that's already a heartbreaking news in itself. But hopefully her legacy will live on, and her acting career should be highly admired as one of the greatest out there. I mean, like, 75 years and, like, that much wonderful experience. There's nothing but admiration there. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you feel about the passing of Angela Lansbury? And also, what is your favorite role from Angela Lansbury? Is it something that we have discussed about here? Is it something that I haven't talked about yet? Let me know what you think. Like, what is it that really stands out about Angela Lansbury? Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, there we go. I remember seeing Angela Lansbury in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. By the way, it's Egla. or Elgatine, or anyways. I also recognize her as Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast, Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, and Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote. She was also in Fantasia 2000, Nanny McPhee, and The Last Unicorn, but hearing this news makes me sad. She was a true star to not only my childhood self, but to everyone else who really adored her acting career in many ways. Let's see now. We also got Angela Lansbury, much like Betty White, was one of those actresses where even with her age in mind, you really didn't want to see her go. I loved Lansbury, from her Mary Poppins cameo to Murder, She Wrote, to especially her role as Mrs. Potts. She was one of the most delightful presents in anything she was in, and it's a shame that she had to pass on. So with all that said, farewell to Angela Lansbury. But a month after we lost Elizabeth II, how is it that it feels like we just now lost a queen? Yeah, that's the thing, man. For me, I feel like this is the true Queen of England that we have lost. This is the Queen of England that has done so much for our community, that has done so much to the world. Much more than we could say about any of the royal family, honestly. So, honestly, this is the queen that we should be mourning for. This is the one that, this is honestly the funeral that I would watch instead of the Emoji Movie. Okay, anyways. Excuse me, let's see what else. Well, we not only lost Robbie Coltrane, but we lost Angela Lansbury. While she is known for Murder, She Wrote, her voice work is what got me introduced to her with Beauty and the Beast and Anastasia. Then I saw her later films where I thought she was good, such as Mary Poppins Returns and Nanny McPhee, in which she played the wicked aunt. Seriously, go watch the latter since she was so good as the evil aunt. May she rest in peace, and hope she ends on a high note in Glass Onion when I go see it. Honestly, I've never seen Nanny McPhee. Like, I'd be curious to see how she would be, especially if she is the evil aunt. Now, that is unlike Angela Lansbury. If she was an aunt, like, I would be excited to hear if she would be my aunt, but not if she would be an evil aunt. Let's see, what else do we have here? 'Tis truly a great loss for not just Hollywood, but the world of English movies. From her first role in 1944 to her very last TV appearance, including her participation in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and her many Broadway, theater, and TV and radio shows, she truly has transcended generations of acting and movie making. Haven't watched the Murder, She Wrote series/movies, but I do plan to in the future. Do you know if they're on DVD or Blu-ray as of yet? Good question. I'm not 100% sure about Blu-ray, maybe, but it's definitely on DVD. That I am pretty confident. So, worst case, you could try to look if there is a Blu-ray of Murder, She Wrote, but there's a way better chance that it is on DVD. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? First, there's the passing of Gilbert Gottfried, James Caan, and now Angela Lansbury. It's very devastating that the acting queen is no longer with us. She provided unforgettable roles in Beauty and the Beast and Anastasia. I really love her as Mrs. Potts, and she did a very beautiful rendition of the song in the movie. Her version will forever be timeless, and may Angela Lansbury's legacy continue to live on. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment before we move on to the next one. Okay, I think I'll go with this one. This was honestly extremely devastating to hear. Angela Lansbury was a really admirable actress and someone who was extremely dedicated to her roles. I'll always remember her performance as Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast, and I even admit her role in Anastasia, and I really liked her performance as the Balloon Lady in Mary Poppins Returns. So all I could say is rest in peace, Angela Lansbury, and may your legacy live on forever. Exactly, couldn't have said it better myself, so may Angela Lansbury rest in peace, and may we never forget the unforgettable roles that she has given us. All right, so now that we have our moment of mourning, now it's time for more madness. Yes, now we're back to calling out some companies out there. And when it comes to our next story, it may sound a little bit familiar, but this is actually something that's completely different. Now, you may remember a few weeks ago when I talked about the controversy related to Crunchyroll, where they have fired the lead actor in Mob Psycho 100, mainly because he suggested the idea of possibly bringing in SAG-AFTRA, the acting union, to Crunchyroll, that maybe Crunchyroll can have a talk with the acting union to see if maybe they can work things out to make something like Mob Psycho 100 to actually be union work. To which Crunchyroll decided to say no and just flat out kick out the lead actor, to just kick out Kyle, which hopefully he's still doing well in his position. He's still advocating for more union work at places like Crunchyroll. But this time, what we are going to be looking upon will be something a little bit different. And what we are going to be looking upon is not necessarily going to be animation or anime related, but rather it's going to be video game related with Bayonetta 3. So, as you probably have heard recently, the main actress of Bayonetta, or the woman who played Bayonetta, Hellena Taylor, it was revealed that she was actually replaced for her role, specifically in the long-anticipated Bayonetta 3, where now the part is going to be played by Jennifer Hale, a long acting veteran, like a voice acting veteran who has a long history in video games and in animation and so on and so forth, of course. So we have heard about that news, which was kind of surprising that the original actress had to be replaced, but still, though, it doesn't change that the hype is still on for Bayonetta 3, especially when that has been highly anticipated for so long, and for a long time, we have heard about a third installment of Bayonetta. But as it turns out, we have heard about the reason why specifically she did not come back. And that was actually her choice, mainly because, well, you know, instead of me saying something, I'm gonna let Hellena say it herself. So this is directly from her Twitter account. So let's go and have a listen.
Hello, my name's Hellena Taylor, and I am the voice of Bayonetta, and I would like to explain to you why I didn't...
Sorry, I just need to go and restart that because the video and the audio did not go in sync right there. I think it was like Twitter, like derping out or something.
I'd like to explain to you why I didn't voice Bayonetta 3. The Bayonetta franchise made an approximated $450 million. That's not including merchandise. As an actor, I trained for a total of 7.5 years. 3 years at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, LAMDA, with voice coach Barbara Barkery, and 4.5 years with the legendary Larry Moss in Los Angeles. And what did they think this was worth? What did they offer to pay me? The final offer to do the whole game as a buyout, a flat rate, was $4,000 US. This is an insult to me, the amount of time that I took to work on my talent and everything that I have given to this game and to the fans. I am asking the fans to boycott this game and instead spend the money that you would have spent on this game donating it to charity. I didn't want the world. I didn't ask for too much. I was just asking for a decent, dignified living wage. What they did was legal, but it was immoral.
So yeah, as you probably have heard, apparently what happened was that Hellena Taylor was offered $4,000, or they tried to negotiate the price, and the best that Platinum Games could do was offer $4,000 for her to reprise the role of Bayonetta for the third installment. To which she flat out said no. And not only that, but she completely bailed out of production, and as you probably have heard, is demanding to boycott or demanding fans to boycott the game, which that's going to be coming out, I believe, at the end of this month in October. So from there, of course, she is now trying to go and advocate for better livable wage for voice actors, specifically those in video games, and especially talking about the whole legacy of being Bayonetta. And she tried hard in order to try to convince Platinum Games and try to, change their minds in terms of the price, if maybe there might be a way that like they could settle this whole drama that is currently going on. She even went and tried to talk to the director of the Bayonetta games and speak directly to the man behind Bayonetta, Hideki Kamiya, trying to ask if there's a way for him to go and make things better in terms of the payment that she would receive. To which that completely backfired, considering that Hideki Kamiya told her to just shut up and just accept the $4,000 and deal with it. To which from there, that ended up getting significant backlash to Kamiya, in which he was just on a massive blocking spree, and he was just blocking so much left and right, like pretty much blocking anyone who did not agree with him, to the point that it temporarily got his account suspended, where for just a brief moment, like his account technically is back, but just for that brief moment, he lost his Twitter account because he was spamming that block button, which caused the Twitter automated systems to think that his account was actually a bot and try to solve the situation by just destroying it altogether. Not entirely, because, well, it was rebuilt, but still, though, it was a ridiculous situation. So that's why right now it has pretty much been revealed about the whole discussion in regards to what voice actors get paid for when they get to play these major AAA video games, when they're playing, when they're working for a big name company like Nintendo, or if they're working, well, not necessarily Nintendo, but working with companies that are directly linked to companies such as Nintendo or Ubisoft or EA or any of those companies, or Microsoft or whatever. In fact, because of this, there have been more people who would go and actually discuss about their experience with how they've been underpaid with the kind of performances that they gave out to some big name games. In fact, to read you here from my source on Kotaku, it states here, other voice actors are chiming in with their anecdotes and experiences. Sean Chiplock, who voiced Rivali in Breath of the Wild, another Nintendo-published game, claims that he was only given around $2,000 to $3,000 for his role, as it is based on the number of hours in the studio. But he noted this pay was largely because he was voicing 3 different characters, not one. According to the SAG-AFTRA 2020 rate sheet, off-camera day performers in the union can expect a minimum of $451 an hour if doing a single role, or $902 an hour if doing up to 3. It also lists a potential small bonus compensation that's dependent on the number of sessions, but these guidelines may not tell us what a well-established actor like, say, Jennifer Hale might be getting paid for her performance. So that's pretty much the big situation that we are witnessing right now. And that's the big discussion that is caused by this entire situation, is the amount that voice actors are getting paid for these major video game roles. And the reason why it is so controversial right now is mainly because of how the landscape of video games are. because you could argue that video games are pretty much in a similar position as movies and TV shows, especially when it comes to their influential power, when it comes to the impact that they would have in just pop culture and in our society. It would be a major key player. Again, almost as much as we would see movies would do, and even shows, rather it be on television or in streaming, like the kind of impact that they would make and what kind of influence that they would leave to the consumer. Like, it really is that big of a deal. And yet, it doesn't really seem to be that fair that when it comes to those movies and when it comes to those shows, those people who would star in them would get massive pay, but the voice actors who would go and work on video games, they would still not really get much. Like, yeah, they would still be a part of the union and they would still get a decent payment out of it, but they would only get minimum. They would not get anything that would reflect upon what kind of prominent career that they would go and have. Or it would not necessarily reflect upon the kind of game that they have appeared in, rather it be like a small little indie game or something that has a prominent big name like Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, or Bayonetta, or whatever. So I do understand the perspective of Hellena Taylor. I do understand what she's going through and why she feels like it is completely unfair for her performance as Bayonetta, where in the third game, she would only be paid $4,000. And especially for being the star of a video game, because I can actually speak by experience that when it comes to voice acting in video games, it is exhausting. Like, no joke. There are very few things in this world that requires you to burst out so much energy and to burst out so much effort in so little time, more so than voicing in video games, especially when it is something that's like highly action packed, that requires like guns, when it requires a heavy amount of action. Like, those things, oh my God, they really do let so much out of you. I probably talked about my previous experience before when I did that Warhammer game, when I did Necromunda. Like, I only played the final boss of it. You know, you probably remember, like,
I did this big brooding boss. I played Grand Dog, and I had to tell off the main characters that they were miserable curs, that they will die the moment they see my face,
and stuff like that. Trying to do that voice for like an hour, because that's the amount of time that I actually spent at the studio recording that. Holy crap. I was more exhausted than the workouts that I would do. Like, I had to burst out so much energy. I had to drink like so much water in that one time, and I was left completely tired. My throat was like sore as hell. Like, I was just excited to just go back home, relax, and have a cup of tea just to calm myself down after that whole thing. I mean, it was great. It was awesome, and definitely would be down to do so again. But again, the point is that it is massively exhausting when doing voiceover for video games. And I'm only talking about the dialogue. I have yet to even mention like the grunts and the action that you got to do, like the actions that you have to do, like the walla per se, you know, like the or even like the deaths. Oh my God, the deaths can be crazy, like or even like all the different kinds of deaths that you have to do, like be on fire, like or even like if you got stabbed, like that I'm already sweating just doing those. So you can imagine what Hellena Taylor has to do with Bayonetta, doing all those sounds, doing all that dialogue, really playing up with her character, getting herself involved in all these crazy scenarios. Probably has to do hours or even days of different sessions to play as Bayonetta, and the most that she would get is just $4,000? That is ridiculous. And this is not even to mention how Bayonetta is a very well established character in the video game world. Like, she has become, like, over the years, she has become massively popular. And for those of you who are not familiar with Bayonetta, basically the best way to describe her is, imagine if Mary Poppins was made for an adult audience and she would be fighting monsters. I think that's the best way that you could go and describe who Bayonetta is. And even if you're not familiar with the games, even if you have never played any of the Bayonetta games, then maybe you're familiar with her in the Super Smash Bros. Games, where she appeared in the 4th installment on the Wii U and 3DS, and then she would come back again on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So she is a recognizable icon in a way. And from there, the fact that Hellena Taylor would come in and she would reprise possibly her most famous role, or one of her most famous roles, that she would have to do like those exhausting sessions again, and the most that she would be paid is just $4,000. Yeah, that is honestly, I get how she feels. That is honestly insulting, especially with how this is an example of how voice actors get treated when it comes to video games, where now they're a multi-billion-dollar industry and the voices of these legendary characters would be chump change. Like, you would think that voicing characters like Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, Crash Bandicoot, Solid Snake, Master Chief, Bayonetta, or whatever, like, you know, playing like some of the most iconic characters in pop culture right now, that you would get one heck of a payment, but sadly, it's still not really that much. You know, it's still pretty minimal compared to the voiceover roles that people would get either on television or in movies, that companies are still holding back in terms of the kind of payment that they should go and give out to characters. I mean, especially with someone like Charles Martinet, like, you would think he would live the high life being as Mario, but I don't know. It's hard to imagine that Charles Martinet would have the same lifestyle as Chris Pratt, for example. But yeah, I do understand where she is, where Hellena Taylor is coming from with all this. However, there is also another interesting factor that is worth mentioning in regards to this entire controversy. And right now, it's not necessarily something where it's really black and white. I mean, yeah, it's undeniable that what Platinum Games is doing by only offering $4,000, like, that is seriously immoral, and they are in the bad of that. But with how Hellena Taylor is going on with this entire boycott per se, like, she is taking things a little bit too far. And that is in regards to how she is treating Jennifer Hale, her new replacement as Bayonetta, in which I'll read from my source here on Kotaku, where she actually states, and this is from more of her videos on Twitter, she says right here, Bayonetta always stands up for those who have less power and stands up for what is right. And in doing this, you stand with her, she says of Players Potential's decision to boycott the game. In the videos, Taylor also wished Hale, the new Bayonetta, all the best, but she still had harsh words to say about what taking on Bayonetta's role would mean to her. But she has no right to say she is the voice of Bayonetta. I created that voice, Taylor said. She has no right to sign merchandise as Bayonetta any more than I have the right to sign as Evergreen, even though I was her parent on the video game The Golden Compass. That betrayal is hers and hers alone. They'll probably try to do a spin-off with Jan, but don't buy that either. And then I will say, okay, hold on a sec. That's probably taking this entire situation too far, because, yeah, Jennifer Hale did accept the voice as Bayonetta, but, you know, she didn't know about this entire situation. And according to the likes of the post that she has made, she couldn't say the situation. She couldn't say anything about the case because, of course, of the NDAs that she has signed. but also she's indicating that she never knew about the situation. She never knew that Hellena Taylor was kicked out because of a low price or anything like that. In fact, just today, Jennifer Hale actually did put out a comment about the situation, and I'm going to read from her Twitter, as she states, "With regards to Bayonetta 3, as a longtime member of the voice acting community, I support every actor's right to be paid well and have advocated consistency for this for years. Anyone who knows me or has followed my career will know that I have great respect for my peers and that I am an advocate for all members of the community. I am under an NDA and am not at the liberty to speak regarding this situation. My reputation speaks for itself. I sincerely ask that everyone keep in mind that this game has been created by an entire team of hardworking, dedicated people, and I hope everyone will keep an open mind about what they're created. Finally, I hope that everyone involved may resolve their differences in an amicable and respectable way. With love and respect to you all, Jennifer Hale." So in this case, it shows that when it comes to Jennifer Hale, she's in a very awkward spot where, yeah, she would want to go in, like, normally she would want to say something about this case, but she cannot because of the non-disclosure agreement that she has signed with Platinum Games and Nintendo, that she has to make, that she has a game that she has to sell, that she has to be the voice of. And I'm just going to say right now, like, just as a quick opinion, that honestly, with the fact that Jennifer Hale is going to be the new Bayonetta, I'm sure she's going to do a great job trying to like recreate the voice that Hellena Taylor has established. And I mean, like, with all the different roles, like, she's a very well-established voice actress. Even, like, she even did a great job replacing the voices for many other legacy characters. Like, right now, she is actually the current voice of Disney's Cinderella and Princess Aurora. So I think she'll do a great job. But in this situation, I don't think she's like an enemy in this case. She didn't go in with any malicious intent, knowing that she's going to replace Hellena Taylor and now she's going to be Bayonetta and stuff. But I will say with what Taylor is doing with her comments, especially towards Jennifer Hale, I think that's honestly going a little too far. Because at that point, it feels like she's gatekeeping, that she's putting a bit too much of her entitlement in this position, where she's trying to say that, well, I am Bayonetta and you have to go and agree to my terms of what you should do with my character. Like, that's a little bit pretentious. That's a bit much right there. Honestly, that I'm not a fan of, because again, what she's doing here is just gatekeeping, and she's commanding what other people should do with the character that she originated. Like, yeah, she's the original voice actress, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she should tell other people what to do in terms of what they should do with her character, because I'm sure that there are plenty of other things that people have done with Bayonetta that she may not necessarily agree with. Don't believe me? Go to DeviantArt. I'm just saying. But yeah, honestly, that's probably the one thing where I feel like she's taking it a little too far. Like, yeah, I get it. This is a very personal matter, but I feel like at this point, she's taking this boycott a little too personally. That she's taking it, she's really taking it personally to the point where she's really getting herself emotionally invested. And that's a bit of a bad move, because when you're being emotional in a case, you're more likely to go and slip up. And that's when you're going to let your anger get the best of you, and you're more likely to go and say stupid things. And I think that's what we are seeing right now, is that Hellena Taylor is saying stupid things towards Jennifer Hale, when honestly she's innocent in this entire case. Really, the big bad guys is supposed to be Platinum Games and Platinum Games alone, and maybe Nintendo as well. But the point of the matter is that, yeah, the situation, as it seems, it is very messy, but I do understand what she is trying to bring up. I understand what the controversy is, and that is in regards to what voice actors get paid in terms of video games, especially when it comes to AAA video games. If you're going to be a part of a big name franchise that you know is going to be selling millions and millions of units, then that should also reflect upon the voice actors as well. Like, they should have a pretty solid pay to play as these, like, very well-known characters. Not to mention, like, maybe add in some residuals as well. The fact that they are heavily responsible to bring these characters to life, they should have those extra compensations as well. So honestly, as a voice actor myself, I get it. I understand what Hellena Taylor is going through. And yeah, honestly, like, I will say it's kind of convenient that this boycott is happening, because I will admit I do need some time to go and catch up on the Bayonetta games. I do have the first and second one. Now I just need I need to catch up on those before I would go into the third one. But still, though, I do hope that there is a resolution to this, that hopefully Nintendo or Platinum will have a discussion with Hellena in terms of what they can do moving forward, and that maybe they will provide better pay in this case. But yeah, it does highlight a serious issue where there is an injustice in terms of voice acting in video games, where they shouldn't be paying like minimal stuff when they're making billions of dollars on it. So that's honestly my piece on the entire situation. And especially as a voice actor, I want to speak out about this case. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you feel about the entire Bayonetta 3 controversy? How do you feel about what Hellena Taylor is expressing? Do you agree with her? Are you going to join the boycott of Bayonetta 3? Let me know what you think on all this. Let's see. I heard about this via Twitter, but haven't really thought much of it. I'm not much of a Bayonetta fan, but this is honestly sad news gaming-wise. Women behind the mic, especially Hellena and Jennifer, deserve so much better than this. As someone who's passionate overall in gaming, the industry at large needs change for the better, not just for the games, but for the people behind the games themselves. Because Young Ye said it best, making video games shouldn't be this hellish and nightmarish. Yeah, good point right there. I was never a Bayonetta fan, despite her having a good smash move set, but even then, this amount of money she was offered is kind of disgusting. I mean, $4,000? Dude, that can barely pay a year's rent. This is especially sad considering how invigorating and hard the voice acting process is for video games. No offense, Matt. So yeah, I really hope they get their act together, though for Hideki Kamiya, it may be too late for him. Oh yeah, like if there is one thing that did some critical damage from this entire controversy, is it's pretty much really scarring Hideki Kamiya's reputation right there, where because of all this, because he doesn't find that, oh, actors should be paid decently well, like that really put a massive stain to his reputation right there. So yeah, he really did mess up in terms of his responses. Let's see. This is an unfortunate common practice that can happen. Nowadays, it feels like voice actors in pieces of media don't get paid the amount they deserve, especially with someone like Hellena Taylor, who is not getting the amount of payment she deserves. However, I do think she is taking the situation a bit too far with the boycott. Jennifer Hale took the job, and I don't think she knew about this situation. Yeah, exactly. I think like maybe some could argue it's a bit too extreme with trying to do an entire boycott on the entire game. And I don't know if it's really going to be something that will be successful, because you never know with how the internet is. Some people will say, like, one day people will say that they'll support the boycott. They'll be sure to not buy Bayonetta 3 in respect for Hellena Taylor. And then the next day when the game comes out, they're going to go and immediately play Bayonetta 3. So honestly, it's a bit of a controversial case, but honestly, I don't like, considering that we're still several days away until the game's release. Like, you never know if the whole situation will calm down, and or less people will talk about it and they'll just forget about it and immediately buy Bayonetta 3. So yeah, maybe like the response to a boycott might be a bit too extreme, but like a part of me does get it. Like I understand why Taylor feels that way. Let's see. Not familiar with the games other than you using the music theme for the Maleficent 2 review when you call out Disney for turning Maleficent into Bayonetta. Hearing that she left because of less pay is sad, although she took a bit too far when it comes to boycotting the game. I do wish Jennifer Hale the best of luck in that role and still need to call out the industry with the minimum payment controversy upon playing famous video game characters. Yeah, I guess you could say it is very much debatable with how Hellena Taylor is handling the controversy, but she is bringing up a very serious issue and a very good point in regards to the payment that voice actors get in video games, especially AAA video games. Let's see, what else do we have here? What are other comments to read? I think I read this one. Regarding the situation with Hellena Taylor, I do fully agree that she, along with many other voice actors, deserve much better compensation for all the hard work. However, what I disagree with her is her telling people to boycott the game and speaking poorly of Jennifer Hale. Those people have still put in a lot of work into Bayonetta 3, and I do feel that Platinum Games does deserve to be successful, especially with some of their games are big bombs. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Like, again, like it's rare that you would see in this situation where a voice actor is demanding for a massive boycott. Like comparing to the Crunchyroll controversy, like you're not really seeing Kyle saying that, oh, we should go and boycott Crunchyroll, stop watching anime and all that kind of stuff. Like, no, he is just demanding for Crunchyroll to go and have a chat with SAG-AFTRA. And that's why that controversy is still going on, because the whole thing is better handled. I'm just saying right now that if Hellena Taylor doesn't get her act together, then her whole boycott plan is not going to work out well. Like she has to go and tone down a little bit about the response of what Platinum Games should do and just focus on having video games pay voice actors a bit better, like really reflect, like have the success of the games reflect upon the payment that voice actors get in video games. So honestly, that's my word of caution to Hellena Taylor. Be mindful about what you say and how you're going to respond to this entire controversy, because the more that you let yourself personally be involved with it, and the more that you get emotionally engaged with this, the less likely it is going to succeed. And if it turns out that Bayonetta 3 becomes a big selling hit, then yeah, honestly, you gotta learn to really control yourself, because otherwise it's just not gonna look good upon you and your attempts to boycott. All right, I'm gonna read one more comment before we move on to the next story. On one end, I see where she's coming from. However, she shouldn't be telling people to boycott the game since she's not voicing the character. Instead, I feel like she should be encouraging people to protest for better wages instead of telling people to boycott the game and gatekeeping, especially because you don't own the role. However, this is heartbreaking and absurd. Exactly. I think we should mainly go and focus on the wage aspect, on the big, like we need to focus on the big picture here. This isn't about this isn't about Bayonetta 3. This isn't about who's the new voice or whatever. This is about the payment that voice actors get when doing big name video games. And yes, I definitely do agree that voice actors deserve more, especially when it's a phenomenon of a video game, much like with Bayonetta 3. All right, so now let's go and move forward to our next story, which is actually going to be from an animation studio, and a familiar animation studio, one that's been highly beloved by a new generation, one that decided to move forward to the online world in order to gain their popularity. And they have done so with one franchise, and then they decided to make their own anime, and it became a phenomenon as well. However, Nowadays, it seems like their reputation has slowly but surely been shattered, and that is because more and more people have been talking about their experience, especially coming from one individual. And this is in regards to Rooster Teeth. Yes, what has happened is that a former employee, someone who has worked at the company for years, I believe like since 2013, by the name of Kim Jensen. I believe that's how you say their name. If not, I do apologize for messing that up. But Jensen went on Twitter and put a really long post in regards to their experience working at the company, in which they stated that they have experienced years upon years of toxic workplace harassment. Like, just all those years, they've just been experiencing harassment after harassment after harassment. And some of the examples that I can provide include them being called the FAG word, or basically the slur that rhymes with maggot, often using that as a nickname. But then when Jensen revealed that they were trans, suddenly the insults were changed from the rhymes with maggot with transphobia, just using transphobic slurs and just making fun of them because they are transphobic. And from there, there's also other examples of being forced to move out to LA and without being paid, of course, for moving out. And when they would have life-saving surgery, the employees would go and blame them for having the workload not working out as well. If things go wrong, they would go and immediately blame them. And then slowly but surely from there, like even as of today, we are seeing more people come out with their experience with working at Rooster Teeth and their experience with the toxicity that they have brewed up in there. And like Rooster Teeth did try their best to try to calm the situation down and try to express that, oh, well, ever since 2020, we've changed for the best. We try to be better. We try to be more inclusive and stuff. But no one is buying it. And it's just making the situation even worse right now. And even as of today, like they're still experiencing things. They're still experiencing stories that it's just been getting worse and worse and worse and worse for them. In fact, here, actually, I'm going to go and read you a part of what Kim Jensen actually stated. So here, let me just go and say, read this part. Yesterday, Rooster Teeth put out its own lengthy statement in response to Kim's allegations. 2020 was a year of broad societal change that brought past conduct to our attention. Many individuals at Rooster Teeth acknowledge personal responsibility for their past actions, both internally and externally. The company pointed to hiring of a diversity, equality, and inclusivity consultant as we pay parity review conducted in 2021. The statement did not go into any specifics about who, if anyone, received any disciplinary actions at the company over the past or current allegations. It also didn't specify whether Kim received a raise as part of their pay parity review or parity review, or whether Rooster Teeth employees still regularly work dozens of hours of unpaid overtime each week. And that's another thing, that even like the workload that they would receive is way too much, that people like Jensen had to work like 15 hours a week all day, every day. But again, that response did not go well. In fact, there's also this part that I think is worth reading, actually. We had to make tough decisions to reduce a handful of roles in select departments to adjust to marketplace realities. Rooster Teeth, which called openness and transparency critical to its growth, wrote in its news statement. Former contributor Alana Pierce speculated in a recent YouTube video about working conditions at Rooster Teeth that these layoffs would only increase the unpaid workload on remaining employees as they're forced to pick up the slack. She also reiterates her own bad experience with working conditions there. In the meantime, other current and former Rooster Teeth contributors have continued speaking up in support of Gen about their own reportedly bad experience working with the online entertainment brand. Fans are also demoralized and actively discussing boycotts. Moderators of the subreddit of the Ruby Animate, a Rooster Teeth production, received recently reversed a ban on discussions of pirating episodes. So that's pretty much the whole thing, where one person has opened up the floodgates in terms of the toxic workplace environment at Rooster Teeth, which opened up to more and more people opening up, and things are just really looking bad for Rooster Teeth. And honestly, for me, I just feel like I'm just going to state right now, of course, I've never worked at Rooster Teeth. I'm just speaking based on an outside perspective on this entire situation. But I gotta say, this whole thing just feels familiar. Like, I have heard about this story before, and yeah, it really shows how, like, these toxic companies can still remain at toxic companies. And the two that really does pop out to me the most in terms of this kind of toxic environment that we have been seeing over the years include, like, you got Activision Blizzard, and especially Channel Awesome. Like, we've heard these stories again and again, how like the workplace environment is just toxic, especially when it's run by these people who let this toxicity flow. Now, I'm just gonna go and state right now that I get it that technically there are dickbags everywhere. No matter where you go and work, there's always going to be an element of toxicity and an element of dickbags working there all the time. Like, that's unfortunately unavoidable. But what separates a good company from a bad company is that a good company would know how to handle the toxicity so that they can go and try to reduce it as much as possible for the well-being of their employees. A bad company, such as either Rooster Teeth, Blizzard, or Channel Awesome, would let that toxicity flow, and they would end up letting it control the entire environment, which is how we ended up seeing Gen calling out the toxicity that happened at Rooster Teeth, such as the transphobia, the amount of bigotry that happened there, the overtime that they would go and force upon their employees, and all that kind of stuff, really resulting in Rooster Teeth to be another example of a highly toxic environment to go and work at. Maybe it's not necessarily as like toxic as Blizzard, for example, where not only would they enable this enable this level of harassment, this level of toxicity and bigotry, but to the point where they would be praising like predators such as Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. But this is still like on the levels of like Channel Awesome, where it really is a case where the higher ups don't seem to care about the well-being of their employees. And because of that factor, it really went down in this terrible like this massive downward spiral where we are seeing more and more people like standing up and calling out Rooster Teeth for the kind of toxic environment that they have pretty much that they've been pretty much brewing within the company, the kind of like horrible people, the kind of things that they just let slide, and that there is no like human resources that people could go and try to like help things out to make things more comfortable towards all of their employees and stuff like that. And even the response that Rooster Teeth has made, the fact that it was only until 2020 do they realize, okay, let's try to change things up and let's try to be a bit more inclusive and let's not try to go and spew out like racial slurs towards our employees. Like that only made things worse because it's like it feels way too little too late because Rooster Teeth has been on for like a very long time. It's been ever since like the late 2000s. So like they had like years of experience and years of time that they could go and actually address the problems within the company, but it wasn't until 2020 when they stated, okay, let's actually try to go and maybe do something about it. And even at that, according to the stories, including the one from Jensen, they don't seem to solve all of them. They don't seem to be a situation where it really does work out where, okay, it looks like things are much better now at Rooster Teeth. No, it's just a situation where right now it's just growing and growing and growing, where now Rooster Teeth is now like one of the big poster childs, again, right next to Channel Awesome and Blizzard, of just this toxic workplace environment that you should never be, that you should go and do something in terms of having inclusion, diversity, and equity within your company, that your employees should be treated respectfully, or else you'll be facing some serious backlash, which is what we are seeing right now. And even the Rooster Teeth fans are currently turning against the company, where now they're actually opening up to the idea where maybe it's okay to go and pirate episodes of RWBY or whatever shows that they would try to go and produce. Like, it really is a situation that now it really has been getting out of hand. And this is not even to mention about the previous controversy that they faced last year, where one of the members of Achievement Hunters has been called out as a predator. So really, it's just been this maddening situation where, yeah, honestly, they like maybe Rooster Teeth might have a slim chance of actually coming out, like, well, not coming out alive, but coming out, coming out fine in this entire case. But yeah, they do have a massively long way to go if they need to go and repair their image, if they wouldn't want to have audiences trust Rooster Teeth again, because this has been damaging so far. And again, this is still ongoing. We are still seeing people call out Rooster Teeth in regards to this insane situation. And I fully do support people like Jensen and all the others who are calling out Rooster Teeth with their own stories and with their own experiences with how bad things are going right now with Rooster Teeth. Because yeah, it is true. This kind of toxicity should not be in the company. There should be none of this kind of discrimination. Like, there should be none of this, like, for, this time crunch to the employees. Like, really, none of this toxicity should be involved. And yeah, Rooster Teeth does deserve the backlash that they are getting right now. Like, yeah, if you really want to prove that things are way better right now, you got to do a whole lot of work, like so much more. And by the way, no, the option of going after the accusers, it should not work. Like, honestly, don't ever do that, because that's only going to be making things so much worse for you. So that's the thing. You need to go, like, yeah, they have a long way to go to prove that there is no bigotry, that they do not accept any form of discrimination or letting people using disgusting slurs in their company, that their employees are getting good pay, that they're getting good time. They still have a very long way to go. But yeah, honestly, it's just like with every story that you would hear. Like, I could go on and on with the tales that have been brought up in regards to Rooster Teeth, but what I've just talked about here is only the tip of the iceberg. I highly recommend that you go and read the stories from former employees in regards to what's been happening at Rooster Teeth, because yeah, they have been some pretty shocking tales, but it does give you an image or gives you a pretty solid idea of what's actually happening behind the scenes at Rooster Teeth, and that there needs to be some serious changes going on, because, oh boy, yeah, like, so far, I think it's safe to say that people have, like, Rooster Teeth is not an ideal place to go and work, regardless of what your position is, rather it be an animator, a story artist, a writer, a voice actor, or whatever. Now is not the time to go and work at Rooster Teeth. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you all feel about the situation in relation to Rooster Teeth? And if there is more info that you would like to go and express that I have yet to talk about, please feel free to do so, because again, this is an ongoing story with what's going on, and you never know what other madness is going to come out of this situation. Let's see. As someone who has seen Rooster Teeth's Rage Quit videos, seriously, I highly recommend you check them out. They are hilarious. This is rather questionable, though I will say this and hashtag change the channel controversy is not as toxic as, say, Blizzard, but still the fact that this was let slide is just wrong and wrong alone. I wish the best for the employees, that they somehow get justice and possibly get unionized. Oh yeah, that's another thing that should happen. Like, considering the kind of toxicity that's been brewing, that is definitely a place that is in desperate need of a union. Like, that's one thing that could probably really help things out if they go and unionize. So at least those things like the bigotry aspect, the harassment, and the workload and the time and stuff like that, like, it would be a great help if unions can come in and supervise the situation. Let's see, what else do we got here? This is incredibly toxic. The only way Rooster Teeth can stay in business is if they replace all their toxic workers. If not, they won't see a bright future. Let's just hope the Bayonetta supporters don't use this to add fuel to their fire again. Oh, they'll literally use anything to fuel the fire, to fuel their fire. But in this case, I highly doubt that they would go and use this to try to justify their stance or whatever, considering that basically what Rooster Teeth is being accused of is the same kind of behavior that you would see in the common anti-woke user on the internet. So I don't think I think that's going to be a case where the anti-woke people are just going to turn the other way and not really care, because they don't care about the people who work in the media that they consume. Let's see, what else do we have here? What else do we, what other comments? There's one good one that I've seen. Where is it? Hold on a sec. There it is. It both saddens and horrifies me that Rooster Teeth is becoming the next Channel Awesome. Still, considering that Rooster Teeth is a Warner Brothers Discovery company, I'm sure David Zaslav will deal with this matter swiftly and professionally. Isn't that right, Ezra Miller and Amber Heard? Yeah, but then again, considering it is an animation division, considering that they are more of an animation studio, I don't think David Zaslav would give a crap about Rooster Teeth. Let's see. I have very rarely watched any Rooster Teeth content, aside a few minutes of Ruby, but putting Channel Awesome in that same shame corner, I mean, sure, the Nostalgia Critic stuff is still pretty cringy, but recently Doug has somewhat changed for being more honest with his viewers. Can't remember that Medako slap. Remember that Dark Whale stuff with that Granny Whispered? Wasted many illusions for that. Okay, then. Let's see what other comments are there. The only Rooster Teeth property I'll follow is Death Battle. I pray that someone stands up to say no more. It seems toxic work environments can happen anywhere. We need whistleblowers to show the kind of treatment that kind of treatment to employees are never okay. All right. I remember being sort of a fan of Rooster Teeth when I was a teenager. I mainly subscribed to them for their subdivisions, Achievement Hunter for stuff like their Mortal Kombat Fatality presentations and the Falls of the Week. Animation-wise, the only thing I got into from them is Transformers War of Cybertron trilogy on Netflix. But even still, they need to try to fix themselves up and be concerned for their well-being of others. Actually, I just realized this. One thing that probably might help the case, and one thing that could happen, is that we're going to see a lot of higher-ups get fired for this, or we're going to see a lot of resignations from the higher ups. They're the ones who have enabled this toxic environment, and they're going to be the ones that could ultimately pay the price. And I think that's going to be one situation that they'll try to do in order to fix up their PR, is to get like, maybe not like remove all the toxic employees, because you never know who is still working there and who isn't. But basically getting rid of the higher ups that have enabled the toxicity in there and replace them with new people that will value more in regards to diversity, inclusion, and equity and stuff like that. All right, I'll read one more comment before we move on to the grand finale. Let's see, what else do we have here? One more comment. Okay, yeah, I think I'll read this one. This is really unfortunate. Rooster Teeth made a horrible move. Allowing and manipulating this kind of behavior is just terrible and unacceptable. And this really feels no different than the change the channel controversy, down to the response where it's just like that, like they say, "We're sorry you feel that way." And I am definitely happy the people who worked at Rooster Teeth decided to call out this behavior, and I wish them the best of luck in the future. So yeah, it's a crazy situation, but hopefully there can be a positive outcome that can come out of all of this. All right, folks, it is now time that we shall get into the grand finale. And with this finale, we got a little bit of a bonus miscellaneous, but this is just one thing that's just absolutely crazy that I have to talk about. And chances are, during the weekend, you probably have heard about this entire situation before, where one little instance in London, it just really got out of hand, and it really got the entire internet talking. And what I'm talking about, well, instead of actually telling you what it is, allow me to show you. If it can, okay, there it is.
Lydia Tarr is one of the most
Son of a fish, I don't mean the commercial. Okay, well, we still got a few seconds. Come on. Careful. Yes, Kate Blanchett is great. That's wonderful. Okay.
Tar.
Okay, yeah, go watch Tar if you want to see a good movie or whatever. Okay, this is it.
Security.
I'm sorry, I just have to, I just need to go and comment on that one guy on the side. I just find that to be hilarious. Like, you got the one guy, he sounds like shocked and confused at the same time. Like, he's not sure if he needs to say it. It seems obvious to say it, but he was just there like, security? What is happening? Anyways, okay, no, there is more, so keep on checking. And here comes the speech.
What is worth more, art or life? Is it worth more than food? Worth more than justice? Are you more concerned about the protection of a painting or the protection of our planet and people? The cost of living crisis is part of the cost of oil crisis. Fuel is unaffordable to millions of cold, hungry families. They can't even afford to heat a tin of soup.
So what you have witnessed, that little piece of insanity right there. Two activists from the climate group Just Stop Oil went into the National Gallery in London, and in order to go and address the message about the oil crisis, or more specifically about the condition of Earth and how, like, yeah, pollution is everywhere, the climate is going pretty badly and we should focus more on that, they decided to go into the National Gallery, take a can of tomato soup, and throw it at a Van Gogh painting, specifically Van Gogh's Sunflowers. So they threw that tomato soup, and then following afterwards, they would go and sit down right where the incident occurred, take a stick of super glue, put it on their hand, and glue their hand to the wall. And that's when they made their speech about what is more valuable, art or life, and all that kind of spiel. And this entire controversy really went viral. Like, it really got a lot of reactions out of people where they were shocked about the situation, that they were talking about, is it really worth it to go and spread your message and all that kind of stuff. But basically, a lot of people were massively shocked in regards to what happened to the painting. And by the way, actually, before I go and put in my thoughts, I need to go and answer the question, because I know some of you might be a little bit concerned. What about the painting? Is Van Gogh's sunflower ruined in this case? Like, right now, has it entirely been spoiled by tomato soup? And the answer is no. Because the thing is, if you've gone to an art museum, then you know that when it comes to their more valuable stuff, they would put a piece of glass behind in front of the painting. So even in this entire incident, the painting, Van Gogh's Sunflowers, is completely unharmed. Maybe they might have to do a few touch-ups to the frame itself, but the painting as is perfectly fine. And as for the protesters, I'm going to go and read that little update from my source on The Guardian. It states here, where is it? It's right over here. The activists were subsequently arrested by Met police officers for criminal damage and aggravated trespass and taken into custody at Central London Police Station. So right now, everything is fine. Everything is pretty much back to normal. Van Gogh's Sunflowers is still hanging up there, is still doing perfectly fine at the National Gallery in London. And those two protesters who glued their hands to the wall, they are now arrested and they are now in custody. So yeah, I think it is safe to say that this is a pretty crazy instance, I must say. Like, it's pretty wild to see that you got these protesters who they decided, for the sake of climate, that they're going to go and throw a can of tomato soup at a Van Gogh painting. Like, I don't know how you would go and make that connection with climate and paint and like try to go and pull that stunt, but that seems to be the big situation that they're pulling off. And I gotta say, like, with my initial reaction, I know some people might say that, like, it sounds pretty bad, but honestly, when I first saw this, I kind of felt like my fine arts side kind of came out, because in the last decade, I actually was in college and I was studying fine arts. And from there, when I saw what they were doing, this really feels like performance art. With what they were doing right here, it feels like every step that they were taking feels so much like performance art in the contemporary era of fine arts. And like, it really has all the right, it has all those components that feels like performance art, where it has a lot of the questionable actions that they were doing, a lot of elements that just makes absolutely no sense. And then it has like that weird avant-garde message that they want to spread across, where apparently throwing a can of tomato soup at a Van Gogh painting is apparently a symbolism for the current climate of our world, that we have to spread that kind of message. This is like, excuse me, what? It really, like, honestly, if you take out the if you take out the political or the activist, if you take out the activist aspect of the entire situation, it really feels like a piece of contemporary art. It doesn't really feel that different than what we would hear of what Banksy would do with his shenanigans, or with that banana that was like duct taped to a wall and would be appraised for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. It feels like something like that. Like, the only thing that would be missing is that after the two would be arrested, you would have the one artist that would come out, take a bow, and like you would just hear like the audience on the side just like politely clapping, like, Oh, bravo, bravo. Very fascinating. Really did get a rise out of me. Honestly, that's the feeling that I did get. But honestly, though, like in a serious note, I look at this and I just feel like this is just wild. It really is. Like, okay, I get it that there is a message that you want to try to say, that there is a legitimate message that you want to come across regarding the climate, regarding the environment, that things are not going well. And technically, there is a message that I do understand of what they're trying to say, that we should be valuing life and we should be valuing the climate more so than valuing art. That this Van Gogh painting should not matter than the current condition of the climate, and that we need to focus more on that more so than this Van Gogh painting. I get that message, but honestly, the approach to it is not the way to go on this. I feel like, honestly, they're being dependent too much on shock value more so than actually trying to take care of the situation. I feel like, honestly, with this, like, they're trying to take action that's like a little bit too extreme, because let's be honest here, what did this Van Gogh painting do to you? Like, honestly, is it because that it's an oil painting that triggered you so much that you have to throw a can of tomato soup? And not to mention, by the way, how counterintuitive the message is with the fact that you literally spent your money on a can of tomato soup, the thing that you're trying to say that people cannot afford, and what do you do with it? You throw it at a painting. That can of tomato soup would have been used by a poor family that you're trying to say, that you're trying to, spread your message that we should help those people. You would have helped those people by buying that can of tomato soup and giving it to them. But no, you decided to go and throw it on the Van Gogh painting. That seems to be the priority you decided to do. You don't have your priorities straight in the matter. And that's the big problem. That's often the problem when it comes to some forms of activism where people value way too much on the shock value to grab people's attention, but it blows in their face because then once they do the shock value action, they're only going to, people are just going to be focusing on the shock value action more so than the message itself. I honestly, I don't think half the people on the internet knew why they even went and did this in the first place. They just knew about two crazy people who threw a can of tomato soup at a Van Gogh painting, and that's it. But there is something very interesting to note, however. There is something interesting to mention when it comes to these two individuals and when it comes to the group, because my comment about how the fact that this feels like performance art, it may be a little bit accurate than you may think. Because, okay, I'm just going to go and state right now that this may be a theory. Now, I'm not going to go and state that this is like a massive truth, that there's a big conspiracy going on with this. For now, this is only a theory. Not 100% of this is confirmed, but a lot of people have speculated that there may be some foul play here. And that is specifically in regards to the organization that these two are a part of, Just Stop Oil. And for those of you who don't know what Just Stop Oil is, there's a very interesting article here from NPR that does talk about who is Just Stop Oil. So they would go and give us a little bit of a summary about what they do, including talking about like what we have just seen with this incident right over here with the fact that they threw a can of tomato soup at the Van Gogh painting. But there are some elements about them that you will see that it will raise a lot of red flags. Like there's a lot of suspicion that we are seeing right over here. So here, let me just go and read this part. So it states, the protest movement says it practices nonviolent civil resistance in the effort to get the government to take action. Through the spring, Just Stop Oil says its members were arrested more than 1,000 times during a months-long protest campaign in which people blocked oil terminals. Now here's the part where it gets truly juicy. Most of the money for its operations come from the Climate Emergency Fund based in Los Angeles, which began with a foundational grant of $500,000 from Getty Oil Harris Aileen Getty. Filmmaker Adam McKay made a $4 million contribution and joined its board of directors last month. Since the soup incident on Friday, some critics have pointed out that Just Stop Oil... let me rephrase that. Since the soup incident on Friday, some critics have pointed out that Just Stop Oil accepts donation in cryptocurrency, which has a reputation of having devastating impacts on the environment. Now, hold on just a second here. There are some things that don't sound right. Like, number one, the fact that its biggest donors comes from an oil Harris, specifically from one of the biggest oil companies in the world, Getty Oil. Why is it that they're accepting money from the Getty Oil family, or specifically from the Getty family? You would think with the kind of activists that they are, the kind that they would go and do like these crazy actions right over here, like they would view the Getty family as the enemy. They would go as far, like they would go and like do everything they can to take them down, to go and make these kinds of extreme actions, that they would be the kind of people that would throw paint towards the Getty family. Why are they accepting money from an oil Harris? That part makes no sense. But then there's also the factor of cryptocurrency. Now, you would think environmentalists would have a massive hatred for cryptocurrency, especially with all the effects that they have been doing towards the environment. You would think that they would go, like, you would think a company like Just Stop Oil would do everything they can in order to take down cryptocurrency, that they would take down Bored Apes, they would take down OpenSea, they would take down all those companies that would do cryptocurrency. Again, you would think that crypto would be the enemy of Just Stop Oil, but no. Not only are they fine with it, but they also go and encourage people to do exchanges with cryptocurrency. Like, if you want to go and support this environmentalist group, then you go and you can spend your crypto onto them, which in a way is very counterintuitive. And this is where the theory steps in. This is where people are speculating that Just Stop Oil may not be exactly who they are. That they are not necessarily climate activists themselves, but rather they're an organization to make climate activists look bad. That they would pull these crazy stunts like this on purpose they would do so on purpose for the sake of actually removing some of the credibility of climate activists. Whenever you would hear the news about environmentalists or climate activists, when they want to go and spread the message, people will think of crazy incidents just like what we've seen in the National Gallery, so that less and less people would take them seriously and less people would actually go and hear what they have to say. And actually, the best way to go and summarize that is that people have speculated that Just Stop Oil is to climate activists like what Autism Speaks is to autistic people. That's what we are witnessing right now. That's the whole situation with Just Stop Oil, and that's why they have speculated that there may be some foul play going on. And I mean, honestly, for me, I can't really confirm if this is actually true or not. Again, like, you know, for legal reasons, I guess you could say, like, this is all like just speculation. These are just rumors. But I will say a lot of that does feel very credible, especially with the kind of actions that Just Stop Oil has been doing. The fact that they are cool with an oil Harris, they are cool with cryptocurrency. It goes like they're pretty much doing things that are very counterintuitive with the message that they want to go and spread across. So honestly, it would not be surprising that this entire incident at the National Gallery with the tomato soup, it could be premeditated. They even admit, like Just Stop Oil even admitted that they were very well aware about what they were doing, and that they knew very well that the painting was protected by a glass layer. They knew that they wouldn't actually do any damage if they threw tomato soup at it. So honestly, I feel like while still rumors, they are very credible rumors that maybe all this is just a hoax. Maybe this truly is nothing more but performance art to express the ridiculous nature of climate activists and really going out of their way. Like, that's how they could go and convince two people to really go and make these kinds of crazy actions. Like, if it were a real situation, then we would have like more updates in regards to those two activists. We would have an update rather if they are going to be sentenced, rather if they will be locked up, or what motivate, or like we would hear more about why they were motivated to do this, or whatever, that they were independently going out of their way to do this themselves with the approval of Just Stop Oil. So honestly, in this entire case, yeah, this may be foul play. Maybe this entire thing was actually rigged. I feel like, honestly, the signs of there are actually credible, but still, it gave us something crazy to look at during the weekend. And what a massive coincidence, considering that I did actually go to the art gallery in Ontario, and not Ontario. I went to the art gallery in Ottawa, and there have been a few exhibits that were actually very, there were a few exhibits that actually did relate to this. There was actually one exhibit that I did see was actually not a wall, but there was like a cabinet, and it had tomato soups. Like, no joke, it was all just a bunch of Campbell's soup, and it's like it was just a pure coincidence that I get to see that not long after hearing this story unfurl. Okay, but with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the entire controversy with what happened at the National Gallery? Are you guys shocked about this? Also, I want to know, do you guys believe if this was actually true or if this was actually a hoax? Let me know what you think. Okay, let's see right over here. Okay. Oh, great. Another activist group, just like PETA or those Christians against whatever word they think is bad, like dinosaurs or Owl House. I understand their concerns about the oil, but still, even at this day and age, oil is required for a lot of things like food. We still don't have enough cars which use electricity, and even that is debatable on its environmental impact. Also, the painting is hundreds of years old, back when oil concerns were not that big. We rarely do oil painting nowadays. But yeah, again, this is something that is questionable, and some people have stated that if this is a hoax, people are hoping that they would get that kind of reaction. So I'm just standing right there. Let's see what else we have here. Good job, Just Stop Oil. You just reminded us why some people hate activists. On the other hand, with all the things behind them, like who they are paid by and their involvement in crypto, it makes it very likely that these were just actors that were paid by companies to make activists look bad in general. Then again, that is just a theory right now, so we'll have to look out for more in the future. Oh, and ma'am, oil paint is made from linseed oil, not oil. Still, though, people who are not familiar with art don't really know the difference. Because some people might think that oil paint would be the same oil that you would use in order to go and run your car. I mean, maybe it's just like you take the oil from your car, add some food coloring, and there, you can make a painting out of it. In fact, honestly, considering how contemporary art is nowadays, I would not be surprised if someone would unironically go and actually do that. You would be surprised with what kind of art that people would go and make nowadays. I literally witnessed an actual wall, like a legitimate wall that's like several feet long, like maybe 12 or 20 feet long, and like 8 to 10 feet wide, that is literally made out of old bags. I kid you not. Let's see. To be honest, I was enjoying more of the Tar ad starring Cate Blanchett more than seeing this insanity. I get that you're trying to get the attention of people about the problem of climate change, but from the looks of it, all they are doing is creating shock value than getting the message across. And may I say that using NFTs to raise money, this is crazy out of all the stories I have seen from today's episode. And all I can ask is, can you play that ad for Tar again? I never thought that someone would be like would be so longing for the Tar ad. Like, that was an accident. And like, now some people are like, I was like, oh, what's that stupid ad doing? No, actually, go back to the ad. Go back to the ad. I didn't know Tar would be that much impactful to you all. Okay, what else do we have? What a waste of money and tomato soup by two activist wannabes. As a person who loves the arts and the art of Vincent van Gogh so much, this is the most tasteless thing I have seen to happen to a Van Gogh painting. Seriously, what is wrong with them? Did they forget that Van Gogh did live in the poverty line? If they wanted to help out with the environment and help people with poverty, just freaking do it. They are doing nothing to actually help out while they are wasting money and food for the poor. Exactly, and that's like a major thing that we are seeing right now in terms of the activism aspect, that they're just really going out of their way to be counterintuitive for their message. Like, that's why a lot of people are suspecting foul play. All right, I think I'm going to go and read one more comment before we cap this off right now. Let's see. An anti-oil organization funded by the oil industry that exists only to make environmentalists look bad by doing stupid crap like this makes all the sense in the world. It's like how PETA is obstinately an animal, they're pretty much an animal rights activist, but kills animals en masse and makes actual animal rights activists look bad. Yeah, tell me about it, dude. And with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. I'm not gonna lie, considering how the weather has been, this episode actually went extremely well. Like, no issues whatsoever. I'm honestly very surprised. So maybe it's I don't know, like maybe it's something else, but either way, I just want to say thank you all so much for listening and thank you all so much for watching, and tune in for more crazy episodes, because let me tell you, this episode was actually really wild. So once again, I just want to go and say, hopefully next time we will keep the madness going. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya later, dudes.